Welcome to Wadsworth History on Film, a program presented by the Wadsworth Area Historical Society and designed to record the oral history of Wadsworth. I'm Caesar Carino, your host. We have today as our guest, not necessarily a person to interview, but a person who is going to help us interview and record for history some pictures of Wadsworth yesterday. We have Ralph Copley, and Ralph, you know, you and I did another show of these not too long ago, and this will be part 2 of the same show. But for the benefit of those who didn't see part 1, how about telling us where you got these picture postcards and how many there are and just a little bit about it. You have a real collection here, probably the most comprehensive collection in Wadsworth at the present time.
Back in October of 2001, I was injured in a four-wheeler accident, and I couldn't work or anything. And I've always been impressed with the city of Wadsworth. I mean, I've lived here 25 years, and any piece of history or anything that I could learn, I always tried to.
Well, you're almost a native next door.
Yeah, close, yeah.
Ripon. And you had a girlfriend in Wadsworth, didn't you?
Yeah, that's what made me move to Wadsworth.
That's what made you to Wadsworth. Yes, absolutely.
got
And you have a girlfriend in Wadsworth and a wife in Wadsworth. You come to Wadsworth.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, I suspect you spent more time in Wadsworth than you did in Ripon.
Exactly. Yeah. But then when I started doing some research about the history of Wadsworth, I started seeing postcards come up. And I thought, this would be a great way to preserve the history to pass down to my family, you know, what Wadsworth was all about, before me even,
Right.
You know, because, I mean, pictures tell the story. And then when you buy postcards that have the postmarks on them, you know, 1907, 1909, 1911, that authenticates that picture.
That's right.
You know that's true.
You know that's what it's going to be.
You know, and everything.
And Ralph, so that we know this for posterity as well, you're the fire chief of Wadsworth
Correct.
right now and have been for the past 3 years.
Going on 3 years.
Going on 3 years. And before that you were the assistant chief and you were the fire inspector,
marshal.
fire marshal. So that's just to record, if someone watches this 50 years from now, they'll know who Ralph Copley is. And at the present time, you are, what, age 50?
Age 50.
Age 50.
Just turned 50 this year.
Just 50 this year. So 50 years from now, you'll be 100 years old.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's right, hopefully, and hope you'll be there. Well, Ralph, why don't we start with the last picture that we had from the last time that we did this, and then we'll go forward.
Okay,
Shall we do
sounds
that?
good.
Okay.
Here again, this is a card that we left off with in part 1. This shows the Ohio Injector, or the Conval building, as some
Right.
people know it. If you look close, you see the children leaning on the fence coming up what I know as Injector Hill or
That's
Match
Injector Hill, Match Hill. It depends on which side of the road you were on.
What side you was walking on? That's what
That's
I've been
right.
told. If you was on the Injector side, it was Injector Hill. If you was on the Match side, it was
right.
Match Hill. But if you look down there today, you still see some of those buildings in existence.
Oh, they're all, well,
Yeah.
yes, but the chimneys are different though. All.
Yes, the chimneys are different. The ones that you see down there today are round. These are all square. Now, this is an actual real picture postcard, it's called. And so I would say that somewhere in the 1900s, those chimneys probably had to be rebuilt for some reason.
Probably for the fact that they were square. I don't know. You've been in construction all of your life. What, or a part of your life? Does a round chimney hold up better than a square?
A round chimney's easier to build too, because you just basically screw it up out of the ground. Or with a square one, you have to build leads and corners and all that kind of stuff. So that's probably
Makes
why
it
when
difficult.
they replaced them.
They made
went that way.
the round ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The next slide here is a bird's eye view looking from the Match Company over across the street.
Now that's
That
not
would be
an
looking
actual
east.
photograph though, is it?
No, that's not an actual photograph. This looks just like an artist rendition
Yeah, it
that was
is.
done and everything. But you can see the buildings, those two buildings that you see on the right that are the Match Company, those are gone now.
Right.
Okay? But the ones across the street, those are still pretty much the same way. Now, where the front building is, someone told me that was the offices for the Morton Salt.
Could have
at
been,
one time.
yes.
Now it's the Moose Lodge, if I remember
Yes,
correctly.
the one, if we could point to it, but we can't because of the electronics here, but the one which is kind of pinkish was the salt office.
Yes, and then that's where the Moose Lodge is
Right.
located today. Okay. Next one, now we're going to go across the street to the Match Company.
Well, that's still there.
Yes, except for the two buildings on the right. Those were tore
That's right.
down right after I became full-time with the city, so it had to be in the early 90s. I don't know the
Okay.
exact year, but those were tore down and turned into parking lots there for the smaller businesses that's in the other two buildings that you see. Here's another shot of the match building. This is more of an artist type thing, but it really
Yeah.
depicts the match because the railroad car, if you go down there and look, you can still see the opening. That's been bricked up, but where the railroad car went into the
Right.
match company. Now the building that you see there on the left, a lot of people don't think that that building was ever built, but actually it sits there today, and they just put wing walls up along that passageway and connected the buildings.
They connected the buildings, but I can still remember when there was a passageway there.
Oh, really?
Or at least in my mind's eye I can remember it. I don't know if I can remember ever going through it or actually touching it. But I used to work at the match some 60 years ago.
Well, that's where my mother and father met, was a match company.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wouldn't have been for the match, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today.
There you go.
Here's another shot of the match, and this is just a black and white shot. Okay. Now, the match was originally founded by the Young family.
That's right.
Back 1895. And they founded 3 companies: the Ohio Injector, the Ohio Match, and the Ohio Salt.
Ohio
from
Salt.
What I've found out.
Now that's the Ohio Salt is not the same as the Martin Salt or the Ohio Salt that was down in Rittman. It's not
No,
the
it's
same
not the
thing.
same.
No.
Same thing.
The Ohio Salt was in Wadsworth, and it had as its logo the Chippewa Indian.
And there's still some of the old salt bags available out there.
Yes, I had one in my office when I was mayor.
I think there's one on eBay right now for like $9 or $10.
Oh, really?
And everything. So there is some of that stuff still out there. There's another shot of the match. That shows the water tower that used to stand over off of Garfield, right beside where Alder Care is now, where the old
hospital
used to be.
was, right.
Okay, they tore that down in the early '90s, also. I think. Rich
Wasn't
did.
that wood?
I couldn't tell you. I don't.
I thought it was
don't
wooden,
know.
but I'm not positive.
I don't know. Now, that's a nice picture. I mean, that's what the match company looks like to me. Okay, with
Well,
the
that's
old
what it
brick
used to
and
look
everything.
like too.
Here's another one of the cards. Like I said in part 1 of the program, there was a series of cards that had a wooden frame work around them and everything. And there's like 5 or 6 cards in the series. And it's basically the same picture. They just take and put a wooden frame around them. Here's a nice shot of the match looking from the back side of it, looking towards Main Street.
Right, now notice how many floors there are there. You see 5 floors. There were indeed 5 floors, but 2 of them are kind of belowish ground.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, that building still stands today. Still stands today. That's a nice shot of the match. That's in 1982 that shot was taken. But that shows what it looked like before those buildings were tore down. The 2 that's right in the center of the picture,
Right.
those are gone now. And there was some offices in there also.
That was the main offices.
The main office for the match was in that particular
Right.
area. This is Overlook School. That was built
54.
54, had 11 classrooms at a cost of approximately $245,000.
Oh my heavens, it cost about $7 million.
Probably now.
But that was built on the Pete Keller farm.
Okay.
Pete Keller farm. Before that, there was a barn there and a huge manure pile right there on Broad Street. Beautiful old farm. And they tore that down and built the school.
Okay. Here's another shot of the square. This is a square looking north.
Looking north.
Okay, that's what it says on the card. I actually think it's looking south. Okay.
When you said looking north, I find that hard to believe because
that's looking south.
No,
On the
that-
back side of the
yeah.
card, it said looking north.
Yeah, that has to be looking south. It startled me for a minute when you said north.
Yeah.
I said, oh, wow, that can't be. But I guess no, I would say that's looking south.
Yeah, that is
As a matter
definitely
of,
looking
yeah, it
south.
is looking south.
Because you can see the streetcar tracks coming in and turning
Yes,
into High
that's
Street
right,
Park
yeah.
and then going back out.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of these cards, there's 2 people that built Wadsworth, I guess, basically. Joe Bender was one of them, and Lawrence or something like that was the gentleman's name. They're made all these cards just about. I mean, just about every card's connected to those 2 guys.
Oh, I see. The cards.
The cards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
the cards. I mean, so those are the people that's
Yeah,
responsible
that's
for
very
carrying
definitely
this
south.
on.
I can identify each one of those buildings. That has to be south.
Yeah, on the front side of the card it says south. On the back side of the card it says north.
Oh, really?
So
No, it's south.
it's south. There was no doubt in my mind about that. Now here's a card that was done in 1982 by Jeffrey Newman Studios. This was nighttime looking over towards Broad Street Park, and he did it with some type of time-lapse photography, of course.
Well, very,
and you can see
very
the,
effective,
the
very
brake
pretty.
lights and everything. Very pretty card. I mean,
Of course, Jeff Newman is an outstanding photographer.
and he's still in the business.
Oh,
isn't he,
yeah,
down
sure.
the south
down
side
the
of town.
south side, well, down on 540, what used to be 548, but it's down on Mount Eaton Road
Mount Eaton
now.
Road. Here's a real picture postcard of the square. The large elm tree that you see here was cut down when the paving of the square was started. Okay, and that particular card there, that's the oldest card I have. It's 1907. It's postmarked.
1907.
So here's another shot of it.
Another shot of it there. But you notice the one thing they have there are those horse stalls and horse where they would tie the horses
A
up.
hitching post?
There's hitching posts, but they're not just one post. They seem to be, and I can still remember a couple of those in town when I was growing up. They hadn't taken out yet. They seem to be big 3-inch pipes or something like that were on 2 or 3-inch pipes going straight down into the.
Yeah, they look like they're pretty massive. I mean, there's
Oh my heavens! Yeah.
3 verticals and 1 big horizontal
Yeah.
pipe
Yeah.
and everything.
And they're big. They're very big.
Now the building down there, the tall building, that one's not there anymore, I don't think. That 3-story building that you see in that
Oh
shot.
yes, it's there.
Okay, the 3-story is still there. One of those buildings, there's a vacant lot down there, going down that side of Main Street.
Right. It's beyond that.
Okay, it's the next building then that's gone. Okay,
It's beyond that.
I just know there's one of those buildings that's not there. Here's across the street. This is Public Square. This is on the east side. Now the steam printing house and those are the 3-story buildings. that you see
Three-story
here.
buildings on the right-hand side there.
Okay, now there's a shot looking north from in front of Central School. The businesses on the right-hand side of the pictures would start with Anschutz and go on up to the Legion and so on. And then on the left side, it's just a business, Carolyn Cupboard and all them's in there.
There's a story about that front part there where you see the sidewalk and partially on the street. The 3 or 4 years ago, maybe more than that now, but a few years ago, in looking over some papers in City Hall, we discovered that the city just somewhat arbitrarily usurped that area and put parking spaces in it, and actually it belongs to the high school, or belongs to the school
Central?
system, yeah.
Okay.
But of course, no one cares, but.
Now this picture here was done prior to 1905, 1906, because you can see the large elm tree still there, whenever they actually paved the street with the bricks. This is just another shot, looking north. It's a nice shot because it's got the horse and buggies in it and stuff like
Right.
that there. Here's 1982. This is the west side of the square. That's when
National
Citizens
Bank.
Bank was there. Okay.
Citizens Bank.
And then the shoe cobbler was down there in that little, very narrow building.
Very narrow building. That building has.
There's an alley.
There's an alley.
Okay.
And they put a front and a back on it and a roof, and that became a store.
Yeah.
And the shoe repair shop was
Yeah.
in there.
But I don't know if any of those businesses are still there from what was there then.
I don't think so.
Here's the other side.
No.
Okay, that's looking at the steam printing house. That's the southeast corner of the square. Someone at one point said there was a jewelry store in
They're
the
right
first
in the
building.
corner.
Right in the corner.
Nielsen's Jewelry.
Okay, and then and Domino's, of course. That alley is still there, and then it's Domino's, and then some of those buildings look identical when you look.
Oh yeah, surely.
Look there. Just another shot of the square. That steam printing house. They published a newspaper called the Young Folks Gym that
Young
had a
Folks Gym.
circulation of 400,000.
That's right.
That's totally.
And the person who was involved with that was a notorious Wadsworth person. And we're going to feature him on the Spirit Walks this coming fall. The story is just absolutely fascinating. And he's a little shyster. is what he
Oh,
was.
really?
But he was good.
He was good.
Yeah, he knew what to do and how to do it. Shyster is probably the wrong word. But
Okay, and of course Anschutz is there on the right now. That's just another shot.
Another shot of it.
What's really impressive about all these shots, and a lot of people pick up on this, is all the canopies that was on the storefronts. Well, they didn't have air conditioning.
That's right.
They had to keep that sun out of that glass because it got so hot in those stores in the
That's
evenings.
right. And I can still remember when I used to work at the B&B store, which was on the west side of the road. In the morning, we would put the canopy down. in the afternoon we would put it up, obviously, because the sun would be coming in, and across the street they would do the exact opposite. But it did make a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you had a big window there and that sun shone into that window, it was fierce.
Yeah, I mean, children today wouldn't know what it's like to go to a store that's not air conditioned.
No, absolutely not.
There was no such thing back then.
They think they'd be out in the middle of the desert somewhere.
Here's just another shot. Now, the name of that store there on the corner where Citizens Bank was, where it's First Merit Bank today, of course. I can't read that. The Rocket Store or something like that. I'm
not familiar with that. And if anybody knows these things, please call us, because what we're trying to do here is to determine everything we possibly can about the history of these. And we still have some people in Wadsworth who are in their 90s who could probably remember these as small children.
Yes, exactly. Okay. This is another card out of the Ben Franklin series that was done in the 40s. This is when the cars parked in the center of Main Street.
Center of Main Street, that's right, exactly.
I mean, that's been gone for, now when I come to Wadsworth as a teenager, you could park in the High Street Park. There was a island coming down through there. You could angle park and everything. But I don't remember them ever parking on Main Street. But this picture shows that they did the exact same thing.
Oh, yes,
on
they
Main
did,
Street.
all the way down. Even in the 40s, they parked there.
Oh, really? Here's just another shot looking to the north.
Now that would have to be way back in the teens, wouldn't it? Because of the looks of the cars.
Yeah, by the looks of the cars, it would be. But that's looking north towards the High Street Park.
Notice some of those cars that, no, I thought that car was backed in, but it isn't. It's just a coupe.
Okay. There's a Masonic Temple up on High Street.
That's the new Masonic Temple.
That was built in 1955,
right.
So it's 50 years old this year.
The old Masonic Temple is where the Center for Older Adults is now.
Okay, that was the original.
That was the original one.
Okay, there's no cards of that one that I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah, none that I've ever seen.
It's a beautiful building.
Now we're looking at Memorial Park. This is a card that was done in 1982 by Jeffrey Newman Studios.
And that's a beautiful picture, of course, typical Jeffrey Newman.
Ed Meyer picked up on it, and he's did a couple cards of Memorial Park, and that's probably one of my favorite cards there of the park.
Beautiful.
Autumn in the park. It's just the trees.
Autumn in the park, right.
I mean, as we said or talked today, there's no water in the lake because they drained it so they could dredge it and everything. But hopefully someday it'll be back looking like that. This is the original shelter house that was
Shelter house down at Memorial Park, built about 1945 or so.
1949.
49?
49
okay.
is built by the Lions Club.
Right.
They donated the labor and everything.
And a couple of the lumber companies in town donated a good portion of that lumber too. I know that Tom Cox was involved with heavy. He'll never admit it, but he put quite a bit of money into that.
And that one's even burned a couple times since I've been on the fire department.
Oh yes,
I've been here 23
absolutely.
years.
That's a favorite to burn.
This is just another shot of that
Memorial
Ed
Park.
did of Memorial Park. Now supposedly there's a story to those trees. That they were planted for servicemen or something.
That's right, exactly.
I don't know the whole story behind them.
Well, Memorial Park actually means that they were the memory of the World War II soldiers, and those trees were planted.
The ones coming along, so that's why the sidewalk was laid out the way it was and
that's
everything.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Just another shot of Memorial Park.
Beautiful.
Now here's the old Mennonite church, which we know as St. Mark's Church today on the corner of College and Pardee. That's another one of the cards from the 40s.
Right, that the first minister was Ephraim Huntsberger.
The church originally came to Wadsworth, it says, in 1832 in one of the books that I have, the Mennonite church.
The Mennonite, but not this one.
Not this one, no.
No, it came out there on Diagonal Road, which what old-timers would know as Old 57.
Okay.
Which is now Wadsworth
Wadsworth
Road.
Road.
And the cemetery is still there.
Okay. Now there's a shot of the same church, but this one here goes back, because if you look at the bricks that's piled up there, out there on what we call the Devil's Strip. This is when they were paving College Street.
Paving College Street.
So that had to be in the 1900 something era, because they paved it around 1902, 1903.
Somewhere in that area.
Somewhere in that area. So that's what the church looked like back then. And now that church was originally built as a congregational church.
Congregational church, right.
Now we're looking at the Methodist Church when it was down on Main Street.
Yeah, that's not the oldest one, but that's the second oldest. Wait, there was an older one than this one yet.
Okay.
Yeah, this one was the brick church here. isn't it? Or is that?
I think this is the wood one. I think
Okay,
the brick
then
one come
that's,
after
that's
this.
the
here.
oldest one then. Mhm.
Yeah, because
But the brick one looked a whole lot like this one.
this one here was postmarked January 1907. Bless you. This particular card was postmarked 1907.
Oh, that would be the original then, the old one.
I think this is the newer one.
Okay, this is the newer one, that's right, yeah.
Okay, I think. One of these cards, it does state on the back, this is where the old church stood, so there may have been a church there prior to. Yeah. And that's just another one of the
Right.
framed ones. The Emmy Church it was called back then.
Methodist Episcopal.
Yeah. That's another shot of it. And now I was told that they still have that stained glass window. That's there
Yes,
in
they
the
do.
front.
They indeed do. They have it in the new Methodist Church on
up
Broad Street. Yeah.
Just another shot of it from a different angle. Like I said, churches, parks, and things like that, those
Yeah.
are the most popular in factories. Another shot of the ME Church or the Methodist. Another one. Now, this is the National Hotel. This
Oh, yeah.
sets down where the
Oh, yeah.
Accurate office is.
That's
You know,
right.
that's what most people would know it as. But that was even prior to the sheep sheds.
That comes before 1905, probably 18 something.
This burnt down, the card says it burnt down in 1875. The
Okay.
history books that I've read said it burnt down in 1873. I don't know which
Probably.
one's.
I don't know which one it would be, but I know it was not around at the beginning of the 20th century.
Yeah. And as you can tell, the upstairs was a hotel and the downstairs was what they called Butt's Tavern. Okay, and that's what the square looked like back before the turn of the century. This is the Kreider Hotel,
Ryder Hotel,
which is where Ritzman's is today.
that's right.
Okay.
Then it became the Park Hotel.
Okay. After the Park Hotel was across the street, they
Right.
built the Brenneman Building, or the O'Neill Building, and
O'Neill.
then this one here became the Park.
It's a beautiful old building. I certainly wish we could have restored that because it has such a charm to it, had such a charm to it. I didn't know of anyone who ever stayed there, truthfully, but I know that people did, you know, but
Yeah,
it was a nice old hotel.
I don't recall ever seeing it. I don't even know when it was raised.
Beautiful old place.
This is just another shot of the hotel. Now, this is the Myers block. Okay.
1905.
Notice the hitching rails out front for the horses.
Right. And they were
everything.
there in the 40s yet, 30s and 40s.
This card here is postmarked 1910.
1910.
So that must have been, you know, I mean, like you said, the building was built in 1905. Had barber shops and stuff down below the
Mike
steps there.
Musko's barber shop, John Sharkey was down there with him.
And if you look in the background there, you see Grace Lutheran Church, the steeple
Right.
for it, and also the house is the hotel.
That's right. Yeah, I see the house. Yes, I see it now.
See it now? And that's another shot of it. See and that's when the street was still dirt. So that was probably built in 1905 by L.S. Myers. So the brick paving mean I went down in the square until after 1905. Because that picture there looks like it's still dirt.
It looks like dirt, it surely does.
And we know the building wasn't built until 1905.
That's right.
But that shows you the Kreider Hotel back there and also shows you the church. Notice all the telephone poles, and because the telephone wires, the pairs and stuff weren't as big as they are what we know them as today. So they needed a lot more pole space and everything.
Of course, that's all underground now, but at
Yeah.
one time. There's the old
That's
college.
the normal school, it was called.
Yep, the normal school.
Yep.
Down where Centralized School or Ashram School is right now.
That was bought to Wadsworth from Smithville. That's where the normal school originally started from the research that I found.
Oh, really?
It came
No,
from
I did not
Smithville
know that.
in 1885 from Smithville and was housed in the former Mennonite College.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay. That's another shot of it with all the kids and notice the school buses in the background.
Yeah.
Those are trucks that they converted. They put seats in the backs of trucks and stuff and built little sides on them. This is Sacred Heart Church. That's prior to the addition that was done in what, 19...
Yeah, we had one in 60 and one in 2000, or rather 95. Somewhere in
95.
there.
So that was prior to the 1960
This would have had to
addition.
be after 1927. Do you know when it was postmarked?
This one here didn't have a postmark on it.
This would have to be after 1927 because I think that's when that was built.
Okay. Yeah, I've got that information in here. There's a First Catholic Church.
That's right.
The stone was laid on August 29th, 1886, and it opened, it was completed on October 31st, 1886, and it's at the site of the present church and everything. And we got another shot of it. That's a beautiful shot of the original Catholic Church.
Yeah, it is very nice there. They
And-
moved that then to the corner of, I was told that they moved that to the corner of Drilling Drive and Broad Street.
Oh, really? Now, the brown house that
Right
you
next
see in the
door.
picture right next door was still there until they did that 92 edition,
That's right.
or 95 edition, I guess it was. That's another shot of it. And you said that was built in 1927?
Somewhere in that area,
Okay,
right?
because I've got, and I don't know where I got this from, but the new church started early part of 1929. Cornerstone was laid August 3rd of 1929.
Well, maybe it was 29 then. I thought it was 27, but it could be 29.
Because you read different books,
Right.
and you get different dates all the time. So it's nice to have someone that knows exactly when
Well,
it was.
that's one of the things here. I'm sure that Charlie Cale can tell us when it was built because he was probably there.
Oh, that's true. But I mean, you read two different books, you get two different dates, like when the National Hotel burnt down. The card says a date, but then you read a book, it says it was 2 years later. So,
Well, when we were doing the research on the fire from the Ohio Salt Company, or the salt company burned down, we have 3 different dates.
yeah, I've got some dates in here when it
No,
burnt.
no.
Everything.
It burned only once.
Yeah, that's right. It only burned one time. Okay. Now this is
South
looking
end.
from the tracks to the north. Nice old card. Very nice card. And that one there was postmarked 1909. So that's what it looked like back in the early 1900s down there.
Yeah.
The house that you see on the left still stands. That's South Main Street.
Yeah.
Now, as you go up through there, Marie's Pizza's there today, so those houses have been raised.
That
You can
old
see the match.
house, I think that was the Basco house.
Was it?
I think.
Okay.
Unless I'm mistaken, that turret. But it was built by a prominent Wadsworth resident years ago. Then I think the Bascos moved into it.
Okay. This is coming up Match Hill because you're on the left side of the street. If you're on the right side, it's Garfield Hill.
Right, and on the
And
left-hand
Ejectable.
side, right, the very, very first building is the Oddfellows office now, but it used to be the Ohio Salt Company office.
Okay. Someone told me also that there was a restaurant there at one time on the corner.
Not that corner, right up the road on Garfield.
Okay, I thought that was Garfield cutting right in there on your left, right at the bottom of the picture. I thought that was Garfield cutting in there. See at the bottom of the picture that what looks like a street? I don't know. I'm just going by what people told me.
I don't think so because the restaurant was halfway into the ground.
Okay.
It was only a one-story little restaurant. It was nothing that fancy.
It's called
Stishers.
Chloe's or something like that at one
Stishers.
time? Stishers, okay. Was there a Chloe's restaurant in that area that people used to go to from the Match Company?
Chloe's?
Chloe's or something like that, they told me the name of it was?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Could be.
Okay, I mean, this is just things that
Yeah.
I've been told, you know. But that's anyway, going up Match Hill. Now, this is one of the first Trinity churches. The first one was actually an octagon. building, I
Octagon,
guess.
right.
Now, the one map that I have at home from the late 1800s shows a church on North Lyman Street. I haven't had anyone confirm that
North Lyman Street, a church. Where would that be?
it was just north of East North.
Boy, I'm not
There
familiar
was
with
a
that
church.
at all.
It shows a church on the map.
Right. If anyone knows about that, just give us a call because that's what we're.
I would
that's why
really
we're
like to
doing
know,
this.
because this, you can see First Christian, so I know this church here is on High Street, because you can see in the background.
Right.
You know, with the steeple and everything. Now, this church here was also tore down, just like Grace Lutheran was, because of fire hazards. It was razed. And that's a picture of it being razed. Now, if you look in the background, you see a horse back there, a workhorse that probably helped tear the church down.
Probably so.
And then you see people standing around here and there. That's what the Trinity Church started out, and that started in 1913. The first stone was laid from what I've
Beautiful
done.
building.
Now, they've done a few additions to it since and everything, but that is a beautiful, beautiful building. And they also told me, someone did, that there is a sister church to that looks almost identical someplace else in Ohio.
Oh,
They
really?
copied that church. I don't know that to be fact or fiction, though. This is another card out of this series from Ben Franklin's of Trinity Church. Like I said, there was 11 cards in this particular series, and it was all churches and parks and things like that there. Just another shot of the Trinity Church. There's the B&O caboose.
B&O caboose.
A lot of people say, well, where was that at in Wadsworth? There's still a few people that know. It was down at Jeffrey Newman's photography studio down on what we know as State Route 94 or Mount Eaton Road.
Mount Eaton Road, right.
Okay. I don't even know if it's still there or not, though. That's where I got this particular card
That's
from.
the old station.
Yeah, that's the old depot down in the south end of town.
During the war, people picked up the train there. Soldiers picked up the train.
That's
there,
the next
they
picture.
are. That's right. Yeah. Okay.
Notice the soldiers. Notice the dress. So that's probably guys going off to war.
We accompanied my brothers there. They got on the train there and they went.
And you can tell it's south end because look at the building back there.
Right.
The card about 6 or 7 cards ago had that same building, showing they're on the other side of the tracks. That's the
The
hospital.
old hospital.
Originally
old car
started
barn,
out as
the
a
horse
stable.
barns,
Yep.
stables.
The match company donated in 1921.
1921. The
From
first
what I
person born there, 1922, was Harriet. The first girl was Harriet Crawford. First boy was Bob Clapper.
Okay, I didn't know any of that, but actually that was used to house their horses and everything. At the time they donated this, they also donated 2 houses that were there on Garfield
the
for
nurse
nurses'
house,
quarters.
Nurses' quarters.
Yeah, and that was the William Artman House or something like that, I think it was called. Yes, that's another shot out of the Ben Franklin series. When I first came here in 1989 as a full-time fire inspector, there was a stairwell going up to that second floor. They used it as a fire escape. So that was real close to what you see there. Now, today, Alder Care, of course, has totally
Yeah, they took it
revamped
down.
the whole thing. Okay, parts of the existing building's still there. That's the William Artman House.
Oh boy, yeah. That's the nurses' quarters.
Yes, that was right beside of the hospital.
Beautiful old home. Beautiful old home.
And I think the house to the left of it is still standing down there in Garfield.
I think it is.
Now this is coming up State Street. This is Wadsworth Manufactories, it was called. The card is, and it shows the salt, basically Wadsworth salt.
We had a vein of salt there which was unparalleled, and they found one down in Rittman just about the same way. But there was a tremendously good vein of salt right there,
Okay,
where that was.
but there's a railroad bed coming in,
Yeah.
and that's what we know now is 350 and 450 State, down where Walt Gehring owns.
That's right. That's
owns
right.
the blue,
Exactly.
the blue buildings and everything. Here's the Brick and Tile Works, which is located down in the south end of town, down on State Route 94. They started tile production there in 1904, making, not tile, brick production in 1904. And then in 1918, they added tile to the production from what
Now,
I've
as I look at those 2 men walking, they seem to be Afro-Americans. Would you say that or not?
The picture does look that way.
Now, if they are, it's a good possibility that one of them is old Mr. Mills and old Mr. Rivers.
Oh, really?
It could be possible.
Because they worked at the brickyard?
Yep.
It could very well be then. And those buildings still exist down there.
Oh, yes, they do, right.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to swear by that because I can't make out their faces at all. If I could see their faces, I could tell you because I knew them both. But when I say old, they were old when I was young. But I knew the families
Yeah,
very well.
there's no postmark on this card, so I don't know how far back it went. But I know the brickyard started in, like I said, 1904. Then it had to go to a part-time operation in 1932 because of the Depression, of course. A lot of
Of course,
factories
everything
and
did.
stuff.
That's right. So many people did.
This one here is the Wadsworth Milling Company.
Yes,
That's
right.
Right across the tracks on the right-hand side from what I found out.
And I don't know how many buildings burned down. That was one of them.
Yeah. But this one here was, they produced all the flour for the Acme chain stores. Some of the brand names was the Ohio Queen, the White Row, I think it was called, and there was another one, the Champion flour. And it was all for the Acme chain,
For the Acme chains.
chain stores and everything.
Yeah, we've had 3 or 4 major fires down in that
South
little
End.
block of land.
Now, the 2 brothers own this, and from what I've read, it was founded in 1895, and it was founded by Peter and John Yoder at the crossing of the Erie Railroad tracks on South Main Street. And then in 1918, due to the owner's death, it was closed up.
Already?
I don't know, I can't find out how they were killed, if there was an automobile accident or if it was a fire or what. But they closed up the total operation in 1918, just because of the owner's deaths. Now, this is the Wadsworth salt. It was founded in 1891. It shipped 700 to 800 barrels a day of salt out of there. The card, this one here is dated 1910 on the back of it. And it was published by Joe Bender, one of the names I said earlier, and it was made in Germany. Here's another shot of it. This one here was postmarked October 1913. And it was also published by Joe Bender and S.D. Lorentz.
Lorenz.
Okay, they did about all the postcards.
Yeah. The Lorenz family has been in town for years and years. George Lorenz was one of the Lorenzes, and his son, I believe, still lives in Wadsworth. But I don't know who S.T. Lorenz is.
Yeah, S.D.
S.D.
S.D. Lorenz.
Maybe if someone out there in the audience knows, we'd love to find out, because what we're trying to do is to establish the historical veracity of some of these facts that are brought to our attention.
Here's another shot of the salt. It stopped production in March of 1928 and burned down October 9th, 1928. That's when it burned down, I was told. The smokestack that you see there, the tallest one, it was the tallest one in the city. It was 125 foot tall. And then it was demolished on September 8th, 1933.
In 33.
Yeah, that's when they tore the smokestack down. Here's another picture. This is a real picture postcard of the salt works, Wadsworth Salt Works.
Yeah, the real pictures are more what I don't remember the salt works itself, but those factories look like that. I mean, the artist renditions are a little bit nicer.
Yeah, oh yeah, they clean them up a little
They
bit.
clean them up.
That sells cards.
That's right.
Okay, now
There's the Young House.
There's the Young House. A
Where
lot
the
of people
Methodist-
don't know where that is.
Where the Methodist Church is right
Exactly.
now.
But I've shown this, and they say, well, where was that at? Why did we ever tear that down? You know, and everything. But that was a beautiful house. I've got 3 different cards of that house. There's another one with the carport and the carriage. Now the carriage house is still there. It's behind the
Yes,
Methodist
that's right,
Church.
right.
The carriage house is still there, and I just found that out the last presentation that I did, that they did preserve the carriage house when they built the church. It's back there. And that's just another
That's
shot
another
of
shot
it.
of it. That had what they call quarter round oak in it, and I think quarter round is the nicest part of the oak tree, and all of the woodwork was made out of that.
Oh, really? Wow. But this particular card here was published by S.D. Lorenz. So him and Joe Bender, they're the ones that's responsible for maintaining this history. If I could find out who S.D. Lorenz was. This is Woodland Cemetery.
Yep.
The first burial there was in 1817, and they allowed the cows to graze in there to keep the grass mowed. Or
was a nice
keep the
job,
grass
too.
down. And it was about an acre. Then in 1820, they held a clearing bee, where they come in and chopped out trees, and they added another acre to the cemetery in 1820, from what I've read. And it went from there. Just another shot of it. Now this is, if you look over on the left-hand side, that tombstone still stands there today.
Is that the, which one is that one? I'm trying to think of which one.
I'm trying to think of the name on it. I just go blank.
But I know which one it is, but I can't think of it this very second. One of our prominent family names in Wadsworth.
And if you notice the fence that was out in front of it, and it's got the arch with the shrubbery grown over top of the arch and everything. It was really, that adds class to it.
Oh,
I
it surely
think.
does. It's a lot of man hours to keep that thing trimmed.
Now that had a picket fence across the front of it, and I've been told that picket fence still exists here in Wadsworth someplace. When they
Really?
took it down, someone bought it.
Oh, for heaven's sakes, no, I didn't know that. If
That's
anyone
what I've been
has that-
told. I don't know.
If anyone knows about that, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, that's what I've been told. That fence still exists. Here's another shot after they moved the statue down from Broad Street Park, the one that you talked in the first show
Right.
about moving it back up
We
there.
want to move it back up to where it belonged. It was up there at the square. For those of you who might be just tuning in, I'm Caesar Carino, and we have Ralph Copley here with all of his pictures He has over about 165 or so, and we have half of them on another show, previous show, and we're doing the other half at this point.
Now, the two drives that we're accustomed to down at the cemetery was added in 1935, the east drive and the west drive. Those were cut through in 1935.
1935.
That I've done through some research. That's just an artist or pencil sketch of the depot down in Wadsworth. Yeah, it's just a card people would mail. Now, here's the blue tip match. This card here was done by Ed Meyer in 2002. And as everyone knows, the Blue Tip Festival happens in June. It's one of the largest parades in the state of Ohio, and everything. Now, another big event that used to take place here in Wadsworth, the Great Balloon Race. That's just an aerial shot of the balloons lifting off. This was probably back in the early to mid 80s, I would say.
Right. Tony Perry started them.
Yes, exactly.
And he was the spark plug behind that thing. Kept it going for years.
And we always worked down there, and I always enjoyed going down there for fire watch, because the balloons and everything was just so majestic to see.
Beautiful.
And everything. And then here's another shot that commemorated the balloon races, and I think this one here was done by Hartman Studios, and probably the Wadsworth Area Growth Association, which was, I think, prior to the Chamber, right?
Chamber, that's right, right.
And everything. Now this particular card's about 8 inches tall and about 6 inches wide. It's the biggest postcard I've ever seen.
Oh, really?
Of Wadsworth. Here's a shot of the railroad.
The railroad, yes.
And with an
The
old
depot.
car sitting down there along the tracks. That would be at Main Street. And that's the end of them.
Well, Ralph, we are absolutely indebted to you for this, because there are so many things that it shows and gives us an idea of what Wadsworth looked like many, many years ago. The one thing that I want to ask you, if you have a minute here to answer, if anyone is interested in, not necessarily how you got these, but say, for instance, someone wanted to do this. How did you get started? And tell us what you do and how you do it. And I know that you do a lot of it on the computer and eBay or whatever that is.
90% of my cards come from eBay.
And
okay?
where do they, I mean, how do people get them? I mean,
Like I said in the first show, postcard collecting is a very big hobby right now, especially town scenes are called, because people want to bring back the history. Okay, they want to see what it looked like 100 years ago, not where it's going today.
Yeah.
And you go on eBay, you just type in a search, like you just type in Wadsworth, Ohio. It'll bring up everything that's associated with Wadsworth, Ohio. It is so easy anymore. Or you go to google.com, type in Wadsworth, Ohio, and it'll bring up hundreds of pages that anything that has Wadsworth, Ohio in that area will come up, and it'll give you background. Okay.
Well, now, you also do programs on this.
Yes, I've done several programs for some of the civic organizations around town.
Yeah. Of course, I'm sure that your time is very limited, because as a fire chief, you probably stay off the streets, don't you?
Yeah.
And I know fully well how hard you work. People think that firemen sit around drinking coffee until a fire whistle blows or something like that, but that certainly isn't true. Education is phenomenal.
Yes, the training and everything is
ongoing. It's ongoing.
Yeah.
I mean, there are volumes. When I was mayor, I was just absolutely amazed at the amount of information that was relegated to the fire department and the EMS. And of course, you're the chief of both of them, the chief of EMS as fire. Between you and Chief Dave Singleton, you keep us well and safe.
We try.
But in the meantime, you found some time to do this, and even though you're transplanted from Rittman to Wadsworth, or your wife transplanted you here from Rittman to Wadsworth, you came this direction, you have this avid desire to preserve Wadsworth history, and today you've done that, and you've done a beautiful job of it, and we want to thank you for it, and are grateful that you took the initiative to do this, and certainly we're pleased and very thankful that you spent some time with us today.
No problem.